Um, I can't see everyone. Is everyone here? I mean,
Yeah, we're having a problem with the in-chambers feed, Joan.
uh-huh.
So you won't be able to see us right now. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll call the meeting to order, the meeting of the Metropolitan Parks District 2023, and we'll have roll call.
Councilmember Leetta Dahlhoff.
Present.
Councilmember Angela Jefferson. And
She's
she is excused. Okay. Councilmember Joan Cathy.
Present.
Councilmember Eileen Swarthout.
Present.
Councilmember Michael Althauser.
Present.
Councilmember Peter Agabe. And he's not in chambers, Joan.
Okay.
Councilmember Charlie Schneider.
Present.
We will, no one will remember these, but we will move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from 2022.
This is Michael. I move that we approve the minutes from the October 18th, 2022 meeting as presented.
Second, this is Leetta.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the minutes of the 2022 Metropolitan Parks District minutes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Nay. The minutes pass unanimously. We'll move now to the selection of officers, and I believe that that is Lisa, our city administrator.
Thank you, President Cathy. So every year, the Metropolitan Parks District is required to elect their officers according to the bylaws adopted by Resolution 2019-001. By statute, state statute, the finance director is actually designated as the treasurer of the Tumwater Metropolitan Parks District, but we do need to have an election for both a president and a vice president to be elected by the board members. So with that, I will turn it over to the board members for their nominations and election process.
So am I to run that, or are you, Lisa?
Oh, if you would like me to assist, I can ask for any nominations if there are for president position, and would open it up to the board members.
Thank you.
I'd like to move to have, oh my God, I was like president, council member to have Joan Cathy retain her presidentship of the Metropolitan Park District.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. We'll check with Karen here. Do you?
These are nominations, not a motion, so I'm just.
I would like to
they-
nominate. I'm amending my first.
Are there
Oh,
any
okay.
other
Never
nominations?
mind.
I feel like we do this every year in this meeting, so thank you.
Are there any other nominations? No, there aren't. So
I would like to
proceed.
move to have Joan Cathy be the president of the Tumwater Metropolitan Park District.
Lisa?
And then somebody can second that, and you can vote on the president position of board member Cathy.
Eileen, can you second again?
I will second it this time. It's appropriate.
So it's been
And
moved.
then-
I guess I just will go ahead and say it. It's been moved and seconded that I retain the position of president of Metropolitan Parks Board for 2023-24. All those in favor say aye.
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 Nay. All those who disapprove. So be it. Now, are open for vice president. of the Metropolitan Parks Board?
I nominate board member Eileen Swarthout to the office of Vice President of the Metropolitan Parks District.
Are there any other nominations?
No.
Is there a second?
I think nominations are now closed, so I would move that we approve the nomination of board member Swarthout to the role of Vice President of the Parks Board.
I would love to second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 I,
Opposed? Eileen Swarthout is the Vice President of the Parks Board, Metropolitan Parks Board.
That was super smooth.
Thank you, everyone. Lisa, are you going to explain to us the resolution?
Certainly, I can explain to you the first resolution on your agenda this evening. So the Metropolitan Parks District is required to set its regular meeting dates once a year. Currently, the scheduled meeting date is established by resolution as the third Tuesday in October at 6 p.m. Staff is actually proposing the resolution 2023-002 be adopted by the board, which would change the regular meeting date to the third Tuesday in November and would change the starting time to 5 p.m. Essentially, the often there we go. Often the TMP PD agenda is a large agenda, and staff felt like there may be additional time presented by starting at 5 p.m. instead of 6 p.m. that would allow the adequate time for all of the agenda items to be heard, and that it may help to avoid the need for a second meeting. And then additionally, the annual meeting that the board holds is required. It's also required that the board adopt a resolution that establishes the tax levy for the upcoming fiscal year. The tax levy is based on valuation data that's actually presented and provided to the city by the Thurston County Assessor's Office. Oftentimes that information is not available until late in October. And so we have suggested as staff that we schedule that meeting for the third meeting in the third Tuesday of November, just prior to the council meeting, in order to give us adequate time to get the valuation data that we need from the Thurston County Assessor's Office in order to prepare that tax levy resolution for your consideration. So that is what the proposed resolution does. It changes your regular meeting date to the third Tuesday of November, beginning at 5 p.m. And that would be established going forward until it would be changed otherwise.
Have any questions or comments from the board?
President Kathy, I have a question.
Yes. Councilwoman.
Did anyone check with council to see if those times, because the reason, like example, we moved our work sessions to later is because those who work. So 5 o'clock doesn't work for me. So as presented, I'm going to have to vote no because I can't do 5 o'clock.
I don't know that we necessarily checked with council on that, but you have the ability to make the change or not make the change, or suggest an alternative start time if that would be beneficial.
The other question that I have is that late enough that there would be ever any conflict with Thanksgiving, or people gone out of town for the holiday?
So, two things. Karen pointed out to me that the 5 o'clock actually came out of last year's meeting. Evidently, there was discussion about that. So my apologies for not getting that information from her. With regards to the third Tuesday, it's possible people could be traveling, but Thanksgiving is typically the fourth Thursday, so that's a full 10 days beyond the scheduled third Tuesday. So it's my understanding, we typically hold that council meeting as well on the third Tuesday. Although we do cancel the fourth Tuesday often, as I understand it, because that's typically just a work session.
How would the board like to handle the 5 o'clock hour? Eileen? Or
I was just
director?
looking at the calendar on for November, and it looks like the third Tuesday is going to be the 21st. I was just hoping I'm looking at it correctly. I got the right calendar up. So, because we have council, then work session, then council would be on the 21st, but that's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so this would not apply until actually next year. So it's
Oh, okay.
possible, I guess, that could happen in terms of how the dates fall. And I think if that were the case, we would schedule a special meeting of the Metropolitan Parks Board, if that were necessary.
So we could have two meetings, one
Or-
to do
Or it
scheduling.
could be
required.
it could be rescheduled if there were a conflict. I guess the bottom line is we have difficulty getting the data that you need in order to adopt the ad valorem tax levy resolution from the county, because they just don't have it available yet by the third Tuesday in October. And so the first Tuesday of November is often a Monday because it's also the general election day. And so that's not really getting us that much more time. So we were recommending the third Tuesday. You know, conceivably, if you started at 5 o'clock, which it doesn't sound like that would work, but you could perhaps have it the second Tuesday, and it would just be before the work session. But our suggestion at this point is to shoot for the third Tuesday of November.
Michael, does this impact you?
I mean, to the extent that I'll be there. It doesn't, this date on here does not pose any particular scheduling challenges for me, I don't believe. I was just wanted to see if folks would be open to do, like, the third Tuesday makes sense to me because we'll be able to have a more informed meeting because we'll be able to get the data. And the first Tuesday is always election year. And, you know, next year will be a particularly big election year, not for us in terms of council member elections, but in terms of, you know, the trajectory of the nation in a lot of ways. So having it at the Tuesday after that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm wondering if people would be able to do 5:30 instead of 5, which still gives us an extra half an hour to deliberate before a 7 p.m. council meeting. And if that agenda is particularly packed, then we could play that by ear. But I wonder if 5:30 would work for folks. And I checked the calendar for next year. This is 9 days in advance of Thanksgiving. Next year, the third Tuesday is the 19th of November, as opposed to the 21st of November this year.
I get, are we directors? I want to say council members, and that's not right. So Director Dahlhoff, how does that fit with your concerns about 5 o'clock?
5:30 is realistic and doable on my part. Thank you.
Thank you. So what we're voting on is changing the date and the time of the Metropolitan Parks Board annual meeting to the third Thursday of November and starting it at 5:30 p.m.
I would make a motion that we approve the staff recommendation to change the meeting time and date to the third Tuesday of November to begin with the exception of changing the start time from 5 p.m. to 5:30 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, Lisa, for that. And thanks, staff, for thinking that through and giving us more time, giving you more time and giving us more time to have substantive materials and all, like Michael said, all the data and so forth. So thank you. So I'm working off of a handwritten agenda here. So are we to hear from Chuck? That's the next.
Yes, you are.
Yes, we are. And Chuck, this is always a good time for you because council is always, always anxious and listens when it's something about our accomplishments.
And it is always enjoyable to say, hey, look, we actually did something and it's done. So I am here tonight to talk to you, and I feel like I should get you guys name tags with your titles. To talk to you tonight about what we have accomplished, mostly in 2003, what we've done thus far this year, and then what we have to complete by the end of 2024, which is the biennium that we're working in. So I have a quick presentation with pictures, because pictures are always more fun and telling about what we've done, and that's a great cover shot. But let's go to the. Are you mind telling you to click? Is that how this goes? I click. Oh, fantastic. Got to use the clicker. Is it the arrow? Look at that. Okay, quick history, because I'm always about where we've been before where are we going. It's somewhat unique. The Park District went to the voters with a specific plan about projects, parks, and staffing and facilities. We said to the voters, here's what you've told us you want. If we do these things for this amount of money, will you agree to raise your taxes to pay for it? Thankfully, they said yes. So over the next 20 years, we have a budget developed and a list of projects and things that we're going to do. So we continue to work through that process. Those included addressing deferred maintenance in parks for the first 5 years. Those are things that never were really successful in the budgeting process. And as parks deteriorated and systems failed and things didn't get fixed, that was one of the top priorities of the public. Let's take care of what we have before we build a new shiny thing. Work on parks and playground maintenance and safety. Safety always a huge factor for us as a department and a city. We would build 4 new neighborhood parks with playgrounds and some with restrooms. We would put a significant amount of money into the Deschutes Valley Trail, combined with state and other local monies, and hopefully finish that trail system by 2027. We would invest in community programs, an art program for the first time in the city, new recreation programs, and in our historical properties in the historic district. We'd create a community garden program. We would add staffing in parks maintenance and in recreation. And the big item for the MPD was that we would build a community center. Vaguely stated, we would build a community center that contained meeting and event space, senior services, our senior program that's currently at Old Town Center. We would have indoor sports courts, and we would include land for a future public swimming pool outside of the facility, should we be able to or choose to build one in the future.
That's a lot, Chuck.
Yeah. Okay, so it should get a little more exciting from now. So here's what we've done in 2023. We continue to have 2 parks maintenance staff that are funded by the MPD. Those staff are specific to a couple of things. One specializes in irrigation, and we have thousands of irrigation heads all over the city. Computer controlled systems for water monitoring and the wisest use we can have of our water systems. The other person specializes in landscaping, and you may not have noticed, but I know Lisa has, and I certainly noticed as I go around our parks and our city facilities that our maintenance of landscaping is so much better than it has ever been. We also hired a recreation staff. She does programs, new programs. She does special events, and she does our sponsorships. If you're aware of the Falls Fest that we just held a few weeks ago, that was her creation. and something that she leads, and it's been quite successful. She's also spearheading our sponsorships, which really we rely, all our special events rely on sponsorships. And just this week, she's working with the Nisqually tribe to try to get them to reinvest and sign a new sponsorship agreement with us for funding our 4th of July fireworks show. That is the biggest sponsorship that we receive all year long. We finally completed restrooms at Tumwater Hill and Barcliff Park. We have arts programming now. We finished Kindred Park. We finished the Trails End Park design. We've done a lot of deferred maintenance projects. We're starting community center design and working on community gardens. So here comes the pictures. Tumwater Hill and Barcliff Park, you don't get much more exciting pictures than bathrooms. This was a long time coming. COVID had a huge impact on us being able to do this and get these units delivered. We had trouble with water pressure. We had trouble with meters. We had trouble with flushing. But thankfully,
here, Chuck?
oh,
we supposed to-
sorry, I'm doing clicker versus mine. There they are. So you can see the two restrooms and a shot of the inside. People are super excited about this, particularly in the Barcliff neighborhood. I can't believe how many compliments we've got about a bathroom. Arts programming. We have now done an arts program or an arts element to every single special event that we do. So if you go to 4th of July, Brew Fest, pumpkin painting, tree lighting, Easter egg dash, any of those events, there's an arts element somewhere within that event that people can take part in. That's taken off. We're working really hard on creating bylaws and an arts commission, and that will certainly go through probably general government committee and then eventually to council. And then hopefully by next summer, we'll have an arts commission in place. Kindred Park. Another project that was a long time in coming. I think we started this about 7, maybe more years ago, and working with a developer and then another developer that bought out the first developer, trying to buy house lots and get land within the preserve neighborhood to serve that region of the city with a neighborhood park. We were able to complete it this year. Total cost about $1.34 million for a 2.5 acre neighborhood park. And well, that seems crazy. At least it seems crazy to me that that's what parks cost now. That is pretty much what we can expect in the going rate, the way things are going. Trails End Park. This year we went through a master planning process with the neighborhood out at the Trails End Park, along with the Parks Commission members. We had a couple of different neighborhood meetings out there. Those went they were very positive. We had a huge turnout both times that we invited the neighbors in to talk with us about their neighborhood park, what they wanted in it, what they didn't want in it, how they wanted to look, what kind of theme they wanted. And we finally settled on this master plan. Nothing super extravagant. It's your typical neighborhood park elements that we have, which is what we try to do. With neighborhood parks, we try to kind of have them all be somewhat similar so people aren't traveling across town to go to somebody else's neighborhood park all the time. But this one's particularly large. It's about 10 acres. Play toy, restrooms, picnic shelters, basketball, kind of sports court. It has a pickleball court. It has a young children's pump track, which is a paved bicycle track with little hills in it that you can ride on somewhat without pedaling. And then it has almost a mile of trails. It has a historical element. It has some faux Mima mounds that I'm sure generations from now people will think are real. And we spent about $30,000 on the master plan design. But I will tell you, when we started budgeting for the Metropolitan Park District in 2017, we laid out our budget. Here's what all these things are going to cost. We budgeted this park was going to cost $900,000. This design is almost $4 million in today's dollars. So we have some more work to do. We have options of changing the design to less development. We could phase the park, which ultimately is more expensive. Or we could combine it with another park and maybe bond with MPD money and do them both at the same time. So I'll be working with the finance department and then eventually working with you on how we want to move forward with these things.
Chuck, can I ask a question? When was the last time that that you met with the folks out at Trails End with this design and what's happening?
I'd say July was probably our last neighborhood meeting.
July?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Deferred maintenance, again, this isn't the fun stuff, but this is critical to being able to do what we do and providing safe and fun park facilities. We put in speed humps, which are large speed bumps at both Pioneer Park and Historical. That was another thing we originally budgeted about $10,000 and it ended up being $25,000. But those are in now and create a real safe zone within our parks. We're repairing a gazebo on the Deschutes River in Historical Park. That's slightly delayed for permitting, JARPA permits and things like that because it's close to the water. We're replacing, we have replaced the LED light, all the lights at Pioneer Park, parking lot, restroom, walkways, all that have been changed to LED lighting. And we've put in new water lines to the baseball fields at Pioneer Park and are working to extend water lines to the picnic shelter and install new drinking fountains. Here's the big one. We're working on finalizing a contract with Barker Rinker CCAT. We went through the RFQ process to get the community center designers to submit their qualifications for helping us design a community center. We went through a process with the committee, which President Kathy was on, and it was unanimous that Barker Rinker CCAT should be the company that does the design for us. They probably design more community centers in the United States and maybe Canada than anyone else. They have worked with us before. They did our public facilities district project way back when we did a community center design for that. They also worked with us in Olympia recently on the regional aquatic study. They led that process for us there. So we're about to finalize the contract. It'll go to GGC, and I would expect the full council will see that probably November, late November, hopefully, and we'll get that process going next year. That's going to be a committee. Council member President Kathy is on that committee, representing the council. The Parks Board is on that committee. We have a representative from the school district coming, a representative from our senior services at Old Town Center. We have a few staff people and a couple of community members are going to take part in that. There'll be public meetings in that process as well. That's our big ticket item. So as you talk about the tax for this year for 24, when we come to next year, and what we told the voters we would do is we would go from 45 cents to 75 cents, and that increase pays for this facility. So we may even need to meet twice next year to talk about that, talk about the finances, because I would assume, we put $12 million aside for this building. That's going to be nothing by the time we start talking about sports courts, community space, senior center, and all the auxiliary things that go with that, as well as the purchase of land. I think we'll quickly find out that we don't have enough money. So we'll talk. Finance director and I are meeting after we get the final taxes for this year to really use some real numbers and figure out options for ways that we can fund a facility and how far can we really go. Community gardens, been a tremendous success at the Methodist Church. We've invested almost $13,000 in that. And I don't know if you've been by there, but they've done a fantastic job of building a couple of different spaces. I talked with her today. They have produced 253 pounds of food and given it to the food bank this year in year one, which is amazing. They still have some more harvest to do too, so there's more poundage to come. They're adding 10 more raised beds this fall, and they're also putting in an orchard of apple trees, about 12 to 15 apple trees. So just taking off. That's been a great thing. They've been great partners and really easy to work with. Yeah, here's another list. I'll run through this really quick. this year we're acquiring 2 new park vehicles. You remember we hired park staff in 2021 because of supply chain issues and priorities in the city for other departments. We still don't have trucks for those two staff people, so that they have been ordered and they're on their way this year. We're completing a historical park lighting replacement as deferred maintenance project. The lights in historical park, the parking lot lights on historic poles haven't worked in probably 10 years. So I'm happy to say those are going to be fixed. We're doing trail repairs at Tumwater Hill Neighborhood Park. We're finalizing the gazebo repairs. We're putting roofs on the dugouts at the baseball fields at Pioneer Park so children don't get baked while they play baseball. Replacing the storm system at Pioneer Park is a big issue. The storm drain that runs down the center of the parking lot from the entry to the back is failing, mostly due to being scoured out from floods. We're still looking for a neighborhood park site near Black Hills High School, and we hope to acquire parkland if the opportunity presents itself. We have money for historic district improvements. I think that's $200,000 that's set aside for either park or historic home improvements. The art program I mentioned continues to develop. We're doing community center design, and we'll continue community garden programs. We've been approached about a new community garden at the parkland under the power lines on Capitol. That's loaded with gophers, but we'll see what we can do there and if there's interest in the community to operate that. So short numbers wise, this biennium we have adopted budget of almost $7 million, a beginning fund balance of $3,178,883. And you can see our revenues there. Our expenditures are going to be about $2.5 million for the biennium. Not a huge amount. A lot of that is for staff and for intergovernmental services. The Metropolitan Park District pays for admin, legal, human resources, and all those things that the city provides. That's as a separate entity, we're required to pay those things. And that's what I have for you. We've gotten a lot done. We have a long ways to go and a lot more to do. Community center process is going to take a lot of time and energy on a lot of people's parts, but it's excited to see that moving forward. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
It's so overwhelmingly good that no one has a question.
I love that.
Yeah. And I don't want you to come wandering through the Barcliff Park neighborhood and dispel any of the excitement, because some of the people think that I have a lot more to do with it than I did have to do with it. That's my neighborhood. So, yeah, we've accomplished some good things.
Thank you.
Year. Anybody else?
President Kathy, I guess I have a question.
Okay.
I do have a question. Chuck, as you're identifying parks and going over parks, does it ever come up in discussion like sensory, like those who are neurodivergent, like accessibility for like generations and age, but also sensory spaces? I know like there's a business in our community that has a contract with the city of Lacey. So at events and parks, they have a space for those who are neurodivergent or get overwhelmed but still want to be with their family. Does that come up in the conversations?
It does in park design. It really just depends on the size of the space.
Okay.
That will be available at with the design at the Trails End, or whatever that ends up being called.
Right.
The park site at Trails End. Some are like the preserve, much more difficult. It's all just packed in a very small
Right.
spot. But yeah, we do talk about that, and we talk a lot about not just diversity, but accessibility, real accessibility in parks, which we kind of give a nod. We meet all the ADA requirements, but we don't really have super accessible like play structures.
Right.
So as we move forward and replacing play structures, which is a need we have, we'll be taking a lot harder look on what true accessibility is. Just because someone can get to an element in a wheelchair doesn't mean they can actually enjoy it and use it,
Right.
and feel like part of the group. And not to go down that road too far, but we are looking at
I love that. That also goes to the restrooms, right? That accessibility and access and inclusion as well. So I think that's great. Thank you, Chuck.
Any other questions of Chuck? Thanks, Chuck. I really appreciate it. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Min-
And I have to say thank you to my staff. We have a great group of people that do a lot of work to make this happen. It's easy for me to stand up here and say, hey, look what we did. But they're the ones that put in a lot of work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. We, let's see, could someone tell me if the, what is next on the agenda? I can't, speaking of having troubles, I'm not able to be on the camera and see my agenda.
It's the public hearing for the ad valorem, the resolution 2023-001.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll open that public hearing. And I believe that Shelley Carter is going to walk us through
Yes,
this is all about and what we're going to be voting on.
yes. Good evening. I'm Shelley Carter, the Assistant Finance Director, and I'm here tonight to present the 2024 Property Tax Levy Resolution for the Tumwater Municipal Park District. First, I want to say thank you for passing the resolution earlier, for changing that date, because I am the person who is mostly impacted by that change. It gives me more time to prepare and give you closer numbers to what we will actually levy in the end. So thank you. As you know, we are required to respond every year with a resolution. It's November 30th every year. And every year the county provides us with reassessed values on all existing properties. They assess values on any new construction and any annexations that the district may have done. And we use those estimates to value what the annual property tax levy will be. With all of the things that Chuck showed you earlier in what has been accomplished and what needs to be accomplished, there's no doubt that the property taxes are a very important revenue source to support those ongoing maintenance and operation costs, as well as new programs. And we are allowed by law to increase the levy each year, either by 1% or by the implicit price deflator, or IPD, whichever is less. Typically, the IPD is higher, and this year is no different. It's 3.67. So the resolution before you today is to certify with the county the district's 2024 property tax levy with an increase of 1% over the 23 levy. If you could share the screen. So I like to show a slide of what we did last year and what we're estimating to do for the new property tax levy. The slide is demonstrating what the 1% increase in levy for 2024 would be, and it's estimated at $2 million. The 1% increase equates to approximately an additional $19,763 above what last year's levy was. We also have an estimated 23 new construction value of $227.82 million. And that gives us an additional $72,145 of property tax revenue in 2024. There were no annexations added for the property tax levy. Last year, you can see there is an assessed value, but the assessed value was lower than the previous year's assessed value, so there was no additional property taxes there. The combined 2024 property tax levy, including the 1% increase in additional taxes from new construction, is used to calculate the indirect tax rate per 1,000 of assessed value, which is estimated at 33 cents for 2024. This resolution is necessary to establish and certify the district's request for the 2024 property tax levy. As outlined, per statute, we're required to present it at public hearing, which we're doing here tonight. I'm also requesting that the resolution for the property tax levy for 2024 be resolved at tonight's annual meeting in order to certify the levy with the county by the 30th deadline. Are there any questions?
Can I ask a question, President?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I just
Direct-
want to say that. Can you go back to the slide that had the numbers just there, the final slide? So where we see 1.02% for the increase in the assessed value and the regular tax levy is 1%. So is that because we have the 1% cap that the state imposes? Like if we didn't have that cap, we could raise it commensurate with the increase in the assessed value, but we can't get the full 1.02 because of the cap. Is that right?
The 1.02 is the change between 23 assessed value and 24 assessed value. And then the 1% is an increase over last year's levy. So it's just showing you how much the assessed value has changed from the previous year. But essentially, yes, we can't go above the 1%.
Okay. So that's sort of, I mean, we kind of run into a problem all the time systemically with property taxes because of the 1%, right? Like it's a little bit here it's 0.02% that's a gap, but year after year that compounds and leads to challenging financial problems, right?
If we have more that we could levy, but we're limited at that 1%, we can do something called banking that extra amount. When we have a cap, for example, Chuck had mentioned we had a cap at 45 per thousand for the first 5 years. 2024 is the last year for the 45 cap, but you can see we're not at that 45 because of the values. We're
Right.
at the 33. Next year, it would be the 0.75. So if there were big increases in values, we could potentially have more money, especially now that we're not capped until the 0.75.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any more questions from the board?
Seeing none, Councilmember Kathy, I would move that we adopt. Oh, well, never mind. I think you need to call to see if there's anyone in the chambers that wants to testify in the public hearing.
Yeah. So is there anyone that would like to speak to this resolution? Is there anyone in the chamber?
We do not have anybody online, and I don't believe anybody signed up over there. No, we have no one in chambers or online for the public hearing.
Okay. So we'll close the public hearing and go to the board for action or what we want to do with this.
President Kathy, this is Michael. I move that we adopt resolution number TMPD 2023-001, resolution relating to tax revenue of the TMPD, fixing the regular property tax rate levy for the TMPD for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2024.
Second, this is Leetta.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept this resolution. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, Shelley, for
Thank you.
taking us through that.
Thank you.
Got to have somebody who knows all the numbers.
President Kathy, item number 8 is adjourn the meeting.
That's what I thought. I didn't have that written down. Is there anything else that anyone would like to speak to? Anything for the good of this order? If not, this meeting of the Metropolitan Parks Board is adjourned.